program, and this is more important. He's delivered design, he was stranger involved now, this part of the migration. The two of us are going to talk about the delivery philosophy of this program. 2 years ago, at the very first MHHS Open Day, I recall Chris Harden stood right here talking to us about his vision for this program. He spoke about moving at the pace of the fastest. Now, that was something I recall at that point. We're not in the business, we're not in the audience saying, yeah, that makes sense. But actually, there's a lot of skepticism because we haven't done this before. That's not something we do as an industry because we've got so many diverse stakeholders. It's not something that we intrinsically would do. And that's one of those ethos that we wanted to change from. We wanted to think about how would we do things differently. Do we have to do things the same way that we always do it? Can we do things in a more simpler, more efficient, and a more cost-effective way? And if we could, we as a program absolutely want to find, implement, and deploy it. But obviously, very, very conscious of everything else we take along that journey with us. Developing the design, we took that slightly different approach where we basically went for the design-led program. We decided that design would be done first, code following. And that was absolutely underpinned by what we have here. All of you collectively, the brain power, the industry brain power that has contributed to what it we need to get to. We don't do this alone. We do it with you. We do it collectively. And as a program, we believe in working with all of you to take us where we need to go. When we baseline design, one of the key things that came up was the risk appetite. When we baseline design, we could have spent perhaps 6 months, 12 months refining, fine-tuning, and there's always a case to do that because some of us do like to get all our T's crossed and I's dotted and get everything sorted before we move. Equally, there's a real benefit in kind of bringing it back to the real world. In all of us going away, looking at what we can do in our own system, going and doing detailed design, because that's where you start uncovering nuances, which the theory of design may not. And that's what we tried to do. We took a risk-based, calibrated approach to say, actually, we're at the point where there is benefit in going ahead, whilst also being very conscious that we need frameworks and checks and balances to ensure anything that you as an industry or we internally find, we're in a position to fix and move forward. One of the biggest things that we've faced as part of this let's move at the pace of the fastest philosophy is the fact that our industry is so diverse. We've got people with different risk appetite, we've got people with different change programs internally. And I'm a former participant in the previous program, and I know my organization's drivers were very different from my peers' drivers. So, we as a program needed to be conscious that all of you are in the journey with us, and we've got to make sure that we have mechanisms to allow us to proceed at a pace that works for everyone. So, in our 2 tracks of testing approach, SIT, which allowed people to go at the pace of fastest. And I know there are people who are saying we're not fast enough. Please bear with us, we're not trying to go fast. But there are people in the market today who want to go faster. But there's also a lot of people who genuinely need a different pace, which is what qualification does. So we've got lots of options where qualification gives people. I'm not going to go too much into it because I know there's a fantastic lineup and they're going to talk all about it. So, but the point I did want to make is we have very consciously tried to make sure that whilst we can progress at the pace of the fastest, we're also taking all of us on the journey together. So we're not leaving anyone behind. We're all enabling all of us to get to those endpoints, the M14s and things in the world where we actually get to realize the true benefits. And this is probably a place where I want to thank all of you. Everything we've achieved to date has been thanks to you. Our 2-pronged approach wouldn't work if nobody signed up to SIT. But we can see there's a lot of you who are keen to get in there and get moving. And all of you, not just the SIP participants, every one of you has been part of our working groups, your advice, your critique. The collaboration has been absolutely amazing. We've learned so much. And what we try to do is, whilst we learn, we try to implement changes, try to implement those controls to make sure everything we've learned, we've implemented, and we take this along collectively and collaboratively. We've come a very, very long way. We are just short of a year away from go live at M10. It's been fabulous. It's been difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's been difficult. We are in the midst of sort of functional testing, like the one. We've got a lot of defects, but actually, that is the beauty of it, isn't it? The more we find, we know we're doing something right. We're doing testing right. The more we find, the more we can fix, the more we can move on. So, a heartfelt thank you from the programme to all of you for being part of this amazing journey, for all support and all collaboration. I know Paige and Keith are going to talk to us about how collaboratively we've been working with you as an industry, and it's amazing. It's one of the best programs I've been in, and this is my third program. It's really, really brilliant. I just wanted to say a massive thank you. I'm going to hand over to Ron to talk through what's coming up next.
Thanks for that. I think just before we get, can I just say, you've done all of that and you only referenced your key cards once. I'm not going to be the same. So I definitely need a bit of prompting. Also having just returned from a holiday. So just to echo what Smith and Helen said, thank you everybody for joining us. And just to continue on from what Smith has shared, I think it's fair to say where we are at this point in the program, we are steadily approaching the beginning of the end of the program. And as we look ahead to the next phase of being qualification, go live, migration, there are three key elements that we need to balance as a program. The first is time, the second is quality, and the third is flexibility. I'm just going to briefly touch on those at a principal level. So in terms of time, we need to ensure the program can enable those who want to move at the pace of the fastest. And we also want to accelerate the realization of customer benefits. We also need to protect M15, and you need to make sure you all complete the migrations on time. In terms of quality, we have to ensure we're doing the things right. We have to ensure we have proactively understood the risks that we face, that we implement the appropriate controls and the right insight and intelligence so that we can obviously track those risks and then we can mitigate them if they do materialize. We will take a holistic and calibrated approach to go live, and we will incrementally increase migrations based on key quality criteria as we get into that migration phase. So quality is obviously crucially important. In terms of flexibility, we are an industry, there are individual businesses out there, and obviously we have our consumers. And so we will provide flexibility for consumers by means of reverse migration. We won't get into the details of that. And also flexibility for participants, as well as for qualification, the qualification waves, and obviously we'll touch on that in later sessions. And migration, flexibility in terms of things like capacity envelopes, which we'll touch on again a little bit later, and migration sprints. So capacity envelopes is basically giving organizations the ability to, starting out on the spotlight, giving organizations the ability to plan their migrations based on their business drivers, their strategies, whatever it may be within an envelope, so the flexibility to do that. The migration sprints and having these short, very intense 8-week periods where we manage migrations at a daily level, but also giving participants the ability to adjust after a sprint. After they've done a sprint, they've learned, and now can readjust to go, to go into the next sprint. But again, we'll cover these topics throughout the course of the day. Just touching on managing risk, so echoing what Smith said, we have always taken a risk-based approach in the program, and we'll continue to do so. We obviously need to always carefully understand and consider the realization of consumer benefits versus the risks of increased cost and complexity to the industry and consumers. We need to continue to weigh up those two elements. finally, one of the key objectives issued to us when we mobilized the program way back in 2021 was to develop a blueprint for future industry change and rather use this program to start to build that blueprint. And I think actually working closely with yourselves and challenging the status quo, we believe we have developed a blueprint. And just calling out, it hasn't been easy. There definitely have been mistakes. There have been lessons to be learned, but that's how we improve. But again, by working collaboratively and with yourself, we found solutions for those new challenges we face when we sought to do things differently, and we have developed some new best practices, and we'll continue to evolve those over the duration of the program. And when the program completes, we'll seek to hand that blueprint, hand it over to industry for it to be reused and further developed in industry programs. So just before I conclude, again, just like to thank you all for your commitments and your collaboration, your contributions. Really look forward to working with you as we seek to move the program from the beginning of the end to the end of the end. To really think about that. Thank you very much.